of Lake Lure Town Council regular meeting Tuesday, November the 8th at 5 p.m. Thank you all for coming. If you'll please stand for the invocation.
Father God, we thank you for another beautiful day to enjoy this natural wonder that you've created for us. Thank you for powers of discernment as we continue the business of the town. Thank you for all of the hardworking volunteers that allow us to exercise our freedom as we vote today for our elected officials that are going to continue to move our country forward. Thank you for our emergency services personnel, first responders, and all those involved in creating a beautiful home for us to live in. We love you. We thank you. Grace, mercy, and power for us all. In your name, amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Yes, ma'am.
Here he is. First of all, thank you all for coming. It's very important to us for people to be here in person if they can, and we are delighted to see you when you're here. I'd like to just bring a couple of dates to your attention to start off with, and some things you might not know is happening. This Friday, the 11th, is Veterans Day. And we are going to have our Lake Lure Veterans Day program, and Rumbling Ball very graciously every year hosts that for us. So we would love to have you there. It's going to be at 9 o'clock in the morning. The next one is on 11/30 at 5:30 in the evening, and this is so beautiful. It's lighting up Lake Lure at the Flowering Bridge, and it's really such a wonderful thing that we do every year, and it's just so delightful. The children from Lake Lure Classical Academy come and sing, and it's really something to bring your family to see, so I encourage you to attend if you can. The next thing is the 1st of December at 5 o'clock is the Lake Lure Great Gatsby Gala at the Lake Lure Inn. I'm assuming that there are still open reservations? Okay, good. So so you can go online and make your reservations there, and that's always a lovely thing, and we haven't been able to do it the last couple of years because, with COVID, so I think we're all ready to get together and share some cheer this year, so. A full band, so bring your dancing shoes. Ooh, how nice.
Is that at the hickorynutchamber.org website?
Yeah.
Okay.
All these important dates you can find on the website, but we just wanted to point these out to you because these things are very important to all of us. So thank you, everybody who's participated in those. We will now move to item number 4, which is the town manager's communication. Oh, no, I'm so sorry. Thank you. And I skipped that, too. Sorry, I got a little ahead of myself here. Are there any additions or changes to the agenda?
I have an addition, Madam Mayor, budget amendment number 345 under new business, which should be, we have a new business. Under item 10, new business, section B, budget amendment 345.
Just gonna move that to there.
All right. Are there any other additions, changes?
No, ma'am, that's it.
I'm good.
Do I hear a motion?
Make a motion, we adopt the agenda as noted and changed.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Then the agenda is adopted as edited. And I already gave you the mayor's communications, so we'll skip number 3 now and move on to the town manager's communications.
All right, we'll go through a little bit. On public services, the department is very happy to be able to report that of their culvert and ditch cleaning, they're about 80% finished with the entire town needs for it. They've been working to make upgrades to the SCADA system involving the sewer. This has allowed us to monitor the levels of the sewer system and automation, and also to make mechanical fixes and upgrades to the pump station that delivering to the sewer plant. Moving forward to the community development, the department issued about 30 permits, and this is compared to about 35 in September. They also worked with, it was a busy month for variances. They had 5 that they worked with the Zoning Board of Adjustment. For emergency management and fire, they had 48 fire medical rescue calls and for the month, which it seems like a busy month. And then they also participated in about 400 hours of training in the month of October. They also completed their state ISO inspection for the fire department. ISO inspection for a fire department has a lot to do with what people in Lake Lure will have for fire insurance in the future, and that turned out very well for them. And then they also completed fire prevention at the Lake Lure Classical Academy. Moving on to the police department, among other things, they were able to participate in the Halloween festivities in Chimney Rock Village. They do this every year, and they help with Chimney Rock for trick-or-treating in the downtown get-together area. And then they also, greets trick-or-treaters and their families, and they gave them treats and glow-in-the-dark bracelets encouraging kids to stay off drugs. Moving a little further to Parks and Recreation, they had a nice cleanup on Weed Patch Mountain Trail on the 19th. They had 3 volunteers and 3 staff members, and for 21 volunteer hours. And then the total volunteer hours for the month was 51. And then they also worked that month for Hickory Nut State Gorge Trail designated applications, and they had those submitted for the Buffalo Creek Park, Weed Patch Mountain Trail, the Dittmer Watts, and the Green Space. Finance, pretty good month, and that's what you want to hear from finance. Nothing outrageous and new. We sit about 50% over the town's budget of projected property tax collections, and that's been received and posted for it, so that's tracking nicely. And then for communications, this was a big one. This was emphasized by our communications director. We had we hit just over 19,000 followers for Facebook for the town of Lake Lure. Why that is significant is the city of Asheville is around 21,000. So we're getting a lot of reach out there. We had 51 Facebook posts with a reach of about 41,000. And then we also talked about that month and confirmed that the Lake Lure has been selected to host the Cycle NC 2023 Coastal Ride. That's going to be in August, the 4th through the 6th. That's going to be a big event. And then going into the manager and clerk and admin studies, we did go through HDD advertisements and open bids. We weren't able to do anything on that, didn't get any bids for it. The plan for that is to redo this in February ahead of the drawdown for the upcoming year, the drawdown after the one we're going to experience. And then we worked also with the TDA steering committee for, and Destination by Design to put together an accessibility grant to support the project with the TDA for our phase 1 of the master plan for Morse Park. And then we also worked to facilitate our latest fall funding application request with ARPA. And that concludes my report.
Thank you. We've gotten a lot done last month. Good team. We will then move on to item 5 on our agenda, which is the public hearing. And we're actually have 2 different ordinances under this public hearing, but we'll of course do one at a time. And I think, Mike, we will defer to you if you'd like to start with ordinance number 22-11-08.
Yeah, this is the staff report in the agenda.
Let me put my glasses on. The first ordinance is the one for the gatehouses and the security houses. And it really came about because of Rumbling Bald has got plans to reroute and revise the way you enter into the resort. And as they submitted their plans, we realized that our ordinance didn't really address what they were doing, didn't really address guardhouses. Those have been there for a long time, they're already in place, but there wasn't any way to exempt it from requiring them to be set back 10 feet away from the road. And that's kind of hard to do with a guardhouse that's supposed to be there in the middle of the road to check traffic coming through. So we ended up really rewriting the ordinance, working with the zoning planning to come up with a way to make it work for the town of Lake Lure, work for Rumbling Bald, work for any subdivisions that would develop from this point on. And I think we came up with a pretty good ordinance that will work. Basically, it's just adapting what we need to be able to write permits for the town. And that's what zoning and planning went through it, made their recommendation to y'all. I know you've reviewed it already, and we would like to request that it be approved.
Thank you. Thank you very much. We will now have an opportunity, I don't have anyone who signed up for it, but is there anyone who would like to ask questions, have a comment in the public hearing section for this? All right, then, we will move on to council deliberation. Is there any questions? Do y'all have any questions for Mike?
No
Good with it, yeah.
Yeah, we're good, yeah. We had a robust discussion at the working
We
session.
did. We had an opportunity to discuss this in depth at our working meeting, which really helps make sure that everybody has all the information that they need. In which case, we'll move on to consideration of the ordinance.
Do we need to have a vote to leave public hearing?
I think you probably need to have a motion to go in and leave.
And out.
Well, I think our little book says you can go in with the mayor, but you have to leave with a vote. Is that
Vote.
correct, William?
It may, I meant to bring that with me tonight, that little book, but I've seen it done both ways.
Yeah, I'll make a motion, we leave public hearing.
All right.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
We have closed our public hearing then, and we will go into our council deliberation. I think we all agreed that we had ample time to discuss it at the working meeting,
Agreed.
so.
I'll make a motion, we adopt ordinance number 22-11-08, amending Article 1, Section 36-5, Article 8, Sections 36-325 to 36-261, and Article 10, 36-295 of the zoning regulations of the Town of Lake Lure Code of Ordinances.
I'll second that.
And you don't even have to repeat that. Good. All in favor?
Aye.
Then it stands approved. All right, we will move on to the second ordinance, which is ordinance number 22-11-08A, replacing Article 3, Section 36-72-5 of the zoning regulations. And we'll listen.
And again, this is one that y'all have had an opportunity to review and discuss in depth at the work session. And it's, again, it's one where our ordinance doesn't really address food trucks the way they're used to in a lot of communities. We're very limited in what was allowed. We'd worked with William Morgan from a legal issue, worked with zoning and planning, and came up with a sort of an expansion of what food trucks would be allowed to do. Basically, instead of just being used for town-sanctioned events, which is the way our ordinance addressed it, and it didn't really address what we were trying to do and what was going on. It now becomes a use, a permitted use, as of either a primary or accessory use on a piece of land. Basically, if it's a zoning district that would allow restaurants, then you could probably, a property owner could get a permit to have food trucks working from there. And then the food truck would have a permit, an annual permit for operating in the town. And that's what the ordinance is about.
All right. Thank you. Any questions for William? Do you hear a motion then to
No.
go into
Public hearing.
Yes.
Oh, sorry.
Do you hear a motion?
Make a motion to go into public hearing?
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And we are now, our public hearing is open, and we have two people who have signed up for our public hearing for this issue. The first is Mr. Richard Matrian. Would you like to come up to and you have 3 minutes. 3 minutes? And if you turn that little, you'll know, if you turn that little hourglass over, you'll know.
Well, I'm not a very good speaker, so hopefully this thing will still have a lot left in it. My
Just
name's
take your
Richard
name and address,
Matrian, and I live up in Girton, actually. And I had the good fortune a year or so ago to have a $200 bottle of scotch on a houseboat, and I met a Michelin chef. I don't know, anybody heard of Michelin chefs? You know what they are? there's like 150 of them in the United States. And we both kind of came in together. He's living in Charlotte now, I'm living up in Girton. We're developing 2 food trucks with wood-fired pizza ovens on them. And a Michelin chef. If you could have a Michelin chef here in Lake Lure, we'd like to set up somewhere and sell pizzas and lasagna and eggplant and other Italian dishes. So, you know, if you do okay this, we've got a good place set up by the bridge, I think, where we can swing it. You'll have a Michelin chef here cooking pizzas, and we will deliver as well.
Just gets better and better.
Keep that in mind when you're voting. Michelin chef, there's only 150 of them in the United States.
Not trying to sway anybody here,
Is
but
there a sampler platter?
Have you applied yet for a permit, or you're
Well, we have
about
to
to?
approve first.
You can't yet.
We're building the truck, and we haven't applied for a permit, but this guy ran a restaurant in San Francisco for 34 years, and he knows his stuff.
You could have off the old one, but that's fine.
Yeah.
okay.
What's that? Y'all
No,
have?
that's okay. No,
That's
you're
what we're
good.
gonna vote
Oh,
tonight.
we're gonna be
You're about
cook-
ready you're ready to put in an application for a permit.
Yeah, we're building the trucks right now, okay, or the trailers. One will be on a trailer, one's gonna be on a truck. We're actually gonna be cooking some lasagna and pizzas at Ina's house. Do y'all know who Ina is?
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
get on the list.
All right.
Cause we're gonna do, he'll show you how to cook lasagna too. He likes to do demonstrations as well, so.
Thank
We do
you
them in
so
Girton
much.
every month.
Awesome.
Thank you very much.
We probably shouldn't have done this at dinner time.
I know.
This is probably not a
Well,
good plan.
thanks, and again, I'm not a public speaker, but I found out about this 3 hours ago. I was down here
You were
talking, and
just
somebody
fine.
told me, y'all don't allow food trucks. I said, well, I'll go back up to Girton and run it out of Girton. But anyhow.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Next person is Lori Bardol.
I've signed in.
Oh, you just
Oh,
signed in?
you were just signing in. Okay, that's fine. That's
Yeah.
perfectly all right. Perfectly all right.
You heard there was pizza gonna be served.
Yeah. Yeah. You want to get on that list, right. Is there anyone else who has not signed in who would like to make a comment at this public hearing?
This is regarding food trucks specifically.
Food trucks, yes.
So I do have a couple of questions. Is the ordinance gonna be available to read? Because when you say people have to get a permit, there are people who could set up on a permanent basis somewhere on a piece of property. But then there's also events, so they have to get a permit each time? Because, you know, the chamber has events, so if they get one, is it a one-time thing with the town, which would be great, right?
Yeah, it is. I think,
Okay.
if I may, under locations and restrictions, item 7, if council considers recommendations and the event's approved and sanctioned and/or sponsored by town council, then it's a different scenario. They don't have to do the separate permit for a single one-time
Well, and I'm sure there's more details, so.
function.
It's
There
in
are,
the-
it is- it will be available. for
Yeah,
that
it will
site,
be
yes.
available
All right.
for that.
I
Mhm.
know
It's
it's a
in
big
there.
question I would be asked.
It came to my mind too when I was reading through it.
Thanks.
Thank you,
I kinda
Laura.
knew that was.
Yeah, I saw that one. I was like, here we go.
Is there anyone else has a comment about food trucks? Do,
Make a motion,
yes.
we close the public hearing?
I'll second that.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Public hearing is now closed. Is there any, I know we had an opportunity to discuss this as well at our working meeting. Is there any additional questions or discussion from the council?
None for me.
We're good.
All righty, then we will move on to
if I may.
consideration of the ordinance.
I'll make a motion to adopt ordinance number 22-11-08A, replacing section 36-725 of the zoning regulations of the Town of Lake Lure Code of Ordinances regarding mobile food vendors.
So second,
I'll second.
all in favor?
All right,
Aye.
Then the ordinance is unanimously approved. That was a lot of work, I know. Thank you all for everybody participated in both of those things. And that ends our public hearings, and we will move on to the council liaison reports and comments. Commissioner Duster?
Yes, thank you. Since both of those were zoning and planning amendments, thank Michael for all his help with that. I want to thank the zoning and planning board. Spent a couple of months going back and forth, working on that, really digging deep, especially into the food truck situation, to make sure that we were doing the right thing for the town. And I feel like that's a great ordinance. I think they did a really good job with that, and everybody seemed to be really happy with it. So I want to thank them for that. And those were really our two main things that we talked about in the last meeting. Parks and Rec, they've had, the Flowering Bridge has had 128,000 visitors year to date. They were featured in the Laurels of Asheville magazine. They sold 40 bears. If you all remember the bears, they had bears for sale, and they netted close to $14,500 for that. The Green Space had 365 visitors in October. Ditmer Watts had 1,781. And if you remember, we put a counter that connects the two, and that counter showed 1,265 visitors. So that means there's people coming in through there that aren't necessarily coming through Ditmer Watts counter or the Green Space counter. They're coming to that, into that general one. So I think that's really great. I think the Green Space is getting, seems like the Green Space is getting a lot of use. That's all I have.
Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you.
Commissioner
All right.
Guerrero.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. First, Board of Adjustments had a training session this month. Nothing significant to report for adjustments in particular. The Lake Advisory Board did meet, and there were two major subjects. The first was a review of the training course of instruction that everyone, for next year, for everyone who wants to operate a motor vessel on Lake Lure will have to go through a training continuum. It's about 13 PowerPoint slides, 12 or 13. Takes about 8 minutes to go through. It was, we went through it in its entirety. Looks good. It'll be available in a variety of venues. It'll be available online, and then there'll be a follow-up, actually sending you your license via U.S. mail, or just-in-time training at any one of our venues that rents boats on the lake, for instance, Lake Lure Tours, or Rumbling Bald, or Lake Lure Adventure, a couple of other locations. So there'll be an ability to do it in advance and an ability to do it just in time if you never got to it, even doing it from your phone and taking a picture of the temporary certification so you can get on the lake. But the important thing is you have to go through that training continuum before you operate a boat. And it's got, it's quick, it's easy to understand, and it gives you, really focuses on those things that we've had problems with on the lake. And so I think we'll see an improvement, at least if people accept the personal responsibility to abide by the rules. I think it'll make a big difference, Madam Mayor. So that was one of the things that was accomplished. And I'll send that out to the council, by the way, I have that. But it should be posted online, working with the town manager. I would say within several weeks, we'll get that thing online so people can start to take a look at that. Certainly before the permitting season starts in January. The second thing that was discussed was kind of interesting, is we're due for a fish survey on the lake. A little bit of history, which is good information for the folks of Lake Lure. So we, on a regular basis, take water samples of the lake for the quality of the water, which then goes, as an indicator of how well it would support the fisheries in the lake. The good news there, for the past decade or so, the water quality in Lake Lure is excellent. It's just absolutely, some of the best in the state, actually, for water quality. Certainly able to support the bass populations that we have and the other populations. Not so good for trout, which has been tried for years and years and years. The problem is the temperature of the water and the inversion creates an environment where there's very low oxygen for trout to survive. They do fine in the Rocky Broad River, which is stocked by the state. Some of those will migrate into the lake, but to support a big trout population is a non-starter. But anyway, we do periodic checks on the health of the fisheries by electroshocking, taking a look at the fish, measuring how quick they grow, which is a good indicator of health. On that note, because we've been putting in bait shad food for the bass, they've been very healthy and they're getting bigger quicker. And so we need to do a check on that this coming year. It's not in this year's budget, but it'll be a budget item for next year. We're talking order of magnitude of $3,000 or $4,000 to get that done. But I thought it was just good information to know that our lake is healthy, the fish are happy, provided we don't keep the lake down too long, and things are well on that front. So that concludes my report.
Thank you very much. Mr. Proctor, ABC?
ABC Board, the ABC store continues to have a robust sales year. We have a new employee, and they are currently interviewing for a new manager. And so should have a new manager, I would guess, within a week or two.
Wonderful. Good news. Good news. And the steering committee did not meet this last month. You know, we just meet on an ad hoc basis when there needs to be something to make a decision about utilization of TDA funds, and that's already been determined for this year. So we did not meet this month. So that is, thank you all for your reports, and we will move on to the next section, which is our public comment. If there's anyone who would like to make a comment, you are invited to speak. Please keep your comments to 3 minutes or less. Yes? And if you'll step up to the podium and just state your name and your address, please.
You want the Rumbling Bald address or where I really live? I'm Jeff Geister. I'm with Rumbling Bald, 112 Mountains Boulevard. I live on 2752 Cedar Creek Road, outside of the town limits. Really quickly, I've had the opportunity for the last year to work with Michael Williams on a number of things related to issues that we face at Rumbling Bald. I have found him to be just an incredible asset to the town of Lake Lure. I just want to take this moment to say thank you to the council for having the wisdom to employ the gentleman, and for Mr. Williams for all the work that he does.
And we appreciate him as well.
Thank you, Jeff.
Thank you for saying that, Jeff, and Mike, thank you so much.
We will take that credit, but it's the town manager that fires
Yeah,
him.
I didn't really have anything to do with that, but thanks anyway.
Yeah. Okay. Is there anyone? Yes, no.
Hi, Mo Bay, 193 Deer Trail. I just want to remind everybody that this Saturday is the Lake Lure Artists Show, which will be in this room from 9 to 2 this Saturday. I think it's 9 to 2. Yes, 9 to 2 p.m. this Saturday. And just to reinforce the figure that Commissioner Doster threw out, the Lake Lure Flowering Bridge depends on donations and money that it manages to raise during the year. And the Lake Lure artists made those 40 bears possible, that we were able to raise almost $15,000. And that goes right to the sustainability of the bridge. So please support the artists here this Saturday.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We
Okay.
certainly will. Is there anyone else?
Laura Doster, 274 Thomas A. Edison Road. I know you mentioned the event earlier, but I do want to take a moment for the chamber to say this is our one main fundraiser. I know Dirty Dancing Festival is a big one that everyone knows about, but December 1st is truly a fundraiser that supports our chamber that really has not had a lot of funds for the last 3 years due to COVID. But it's going to be a phenomenal Great Gatsby gala. It is formal, semi-formal, coats and dress. You don't have to wear a Great Gatsby outfit, but you can. And there are several of us who are. We have, for the first time, it's a 6-piece band, and it's a jazz Roaring 20s band. And there's a silent auction that's all going to be online. We kind of followed after the Flowering Bridge and the success they had. It allows more people to kind of donate or raise money. There's a live auction that'll take place. We have a house in Costa Rica for 5 days for 8 people. That's a part of that live auction. So get your teams together and come out and bid on it. But we'd love to see you there. It's from 6 to 10, Thursday night, December 1st at the Lake Lure Inn. So thank you.
That sounds like a great way to start off the holiday season. Anyone else would like to make a comment? And once again, we always appreciate people making comments. We, it's an opportunity for us to have more information from the community. We'll move on to number 8, the consent agenda. Are there any, haven't had an opportunity to look at the consent agenda? Does anyone have any questions or any edits?
I make a motion, we approve the consent agenda.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
The consent agenda is approved unanimously. We'll then move on to unfinished business. The first is a request from property owner, from Josh Goodlarick of 315 Lakeview Road for written approval from town council for adding fill out or below the lake shoreline.
Is Mike gonna present?
Mike?
You got
do
something?
You're
Would
on.
you like?
Josh is not here tonight. We've been working together on trying to get this resolved, and working with the Army Corps of Engineers. Finally got a response back from the Army Corps. Finally got a response back from the Army Corps that affects a lot of people, because we have numerous beaches on the lake, from Rumbling Bald to the towns, to Josh's and some of these other private residential beaches. And the Army Corps has agreed that they are, in their words, going to kind of turn a blind eye, really. It said they're not supposed to have fill going into the lake, but for those that are already there, they will permit the town to continue the practice of resanding the beaches to the minimum amount. Basically throwing it back to us with the policy we had before for the, to approve it, come before town council to approve adding fill to a beach. And so that would apply to Rumbling Bald, it would apply to the town to go through that. I would propose that that would also apply to Mrs. Scaleric, who had requested, who didn't know about this and put the sand out there. He was fined, he is taking care of that, but to allow him to leave that sand on his beach. And I agreed to speak for him today before
All
now.
right, I'm sure he appreciates that. Any questions?
I do, I have one question. I think, Mike, I think it would be prudent, you probably already have this, but I'll ask the question anyway. So in order to understand what you can add to, we probably should have a good baseline of where all those beaches are, so that we don't have the expectation that somebody could, put one in and all of a sudden be retroactive. So do you have a list, or are you working on a list?
I have a preliminary list. I've got pictures of most of them.
Okay.
And so yes, we do have that.
We may want to post that list once it's done, in case someone in their mind thinks they have a beach, and to adjudicate it, so that we don't have a surprise at some point, just food for thought when we get that done. But thank you for getting that baseline done.
Yeah, I agree with Dave. We don't need any more.
Right.
Right.
And I believe that's included in there,
And
that this
I want
was,
to make sure that that's exactly what he said,
Yeah.
is that we don't want any more. And I think you agree with what
Yeah.
you just said.
And
So
this
I-
just came down from the Army Corps.
Right.
Yeah.
And.
Which is really kind of the first time
And
you've
so
had
I'll coordinate with Laura for communications too,
Okay.
just to get out what will be allowed, who it will be allowed for.
Yeah.
A minimum
beaches.
minimum
And it's just
amount,
existing
a
beaches.
And
maximum
the town
amount.
does not continue
Only
to not
existing
permit
beaches.
Right.
beaches.
Right.
Existing beaches, basically maintenance of an existing beach.
Right.
Right.
Would it need to come back to the the way it's written now, it would need, each time someone that's on the list would need to
They would need to
come back,
each
but,
time.
but there's no real guidance on, it just says they have to come and get it from the town, there's no standards.
Community development has been working on a proposed guideline. It's up to, the way the ordinance is written, it's up to y'all.
Yeah.
It's not up to
On a
me.
case-by-case
Yeah.
It's
basis
up
with
to
no
y'all.
guiding.
And
Yeah.
so we have some minimal standards. How long has it been? When was your beach established?
Yeah.
When was the last time it was, the Army Corps
Refurbished.
used resanded?
Right.
But, when was the last time you added to it? What mitigation, efforts are you proposing to keep the sand from going into the lake? Those basics, so you have something to base a decision on.
So we and forgive the ignorance here, but do we have that in place now? any of that kind of stuff? Do we need to write that? Do we need to
The question, the
update the whole
guidelines,
entire guideline?
that's what I'm saying, community development, we've got,
You're in
Yeah.
the process?
Yeah, they're gonna work through
They're in
that,
the
yeah.
Okay.
we're getting this
Okay.
out of the way
All right, perfect.
today.
So like,
Oh, okay, so.
Right.
So, yeah, we have that.
So you'll
We
come
will
back,
provide that to you, whether you want to do it, we're going to provide our suggestion of what
Okay.
to use.
good enough,
Yeah.
yep.
okay, because like Parks, Rec, and Lake will have to come to council.
Yeah.
Well, they have not in the past.
Probably.
It has not been on agenda, we just have been sanding the beach, but,
Yeah.
you know, we're part and parcel with this too, so.
So do you hear a motion then to approve his request?
I'll make a motion to request from property owner Josh Goodlerick of 315 Lakeview Road for written approval from town council for adding fill at or below the lake shoreline, parcel number 225319.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, then that recommendation is approved.
Thanks, Mike.
We'll move on then to new business. The first item is to consider amending the mobile food vendor permit fee.
Nope.
You left,
Did I leave something off?
Unfinished B.
Unfinished B.
Oh,
unfinished B.
I'm so sorry. There we go. Got it. All right, beg your pardon. Unfinished business. Item B, approval of intent to discuss renewal of an agreement to operate water system with Chimney Rock Village. Mr. Perkins.
Yes, ma'am. At our work session, we discussed that the town of Lake Lore did receive the required notice of the intent of Chimney Rock Village to renew an agreement that is coming to an end in 2023. It is a 20-year-old agreement. By the terms of the agreement, we have 60 days to give answer to Chimney Rock Village of our intent to renew this one. So I've got the recommended motion would be to authorize the town to enter into negotiations to the end to renew an agreement. At this point, we don't have an amendment to consider. That is something that has to be done, but we need this as a part of our current agreement with Chimney Rock Village.
And they're required to provide us that by December 1st, correct?
They're going to provide us with a draft that we can start the consideration of the back and forth that will happen. But we need to give them answer by the current terms of the agreement to give them our intent to consider a renewal within 60 days of their notice.
Okay. Any questions? We did have a chance to discuss this at the working meeting as well.
Good.
All right, do I hear a motion then?
Madam Mayor, I move that we authorize the town manager to enter into discussions to discuss renewal of an agreement to operate water system with Chimney Rock Village.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Yes.
Thank you.
Then that recommendation passes unanimously. And we will now move on to new business. The first item is to consider amending the mobile food vendor permit fee for year 22-23 for the fee schedule. Mr. Perkins?
All right, it says, right now, we're going to, the recommendation is to amend the fee schedule to decrease the mobile food vendor permit fee from 160 down to 100. So that action does require action from the council to amend the fee schedule for the town.
Any discussion on that?
Mike, I have a question that's not directly related, but somewhat related. For the property owners, they need a certificate of zoning compliance. In that part of the chart, there's class 1, class 2, class 3, class 4.
It would be a commercial,
So
at one time for that use,
what would be the fee for that?
$330.
$330. So that's the,
Class 4.
Class 4.
okay. Okay, I just did, okay. Okay,
And that's a one time, it's just
Right,
like
right.
any other zone.
right, okay.
Any other questions? Then do I hear a motion?
Make a motion, we consider amending mobile food vendor permit fee on fiscal year 22-23 fee schedule to $100 from $160.
All right,
I'll make a second.
all in favor?
Aye.
And that passes unanimously. And we have one other item on new business that was added in, that was a budget amendment. Mr. Perkins?
Yes, ma'am. We presented the budget amendment. This is budget amendment 345 Basically, what this is right now is we're involved with a lot of work in the sewer system for it. We are applying for reimbursement for the ARPA funds, but from an accounting principle spot, to be able to make the payment from the town, you have to have a budget line item within the expenditure line item to actually write the check. So we're asking this evening for a budget amendment to take out $800,000 from the water and sewers general fund to supply an expenditure line item with $800,000. This will give us enough to pay existing bills for Labella for the engineering services and a Ruby Collins bill that we have outstanding. What we're expecting for is that when we get the reimbursements come in from the state, they go right back into the general fund. So we're going to be coming to you periodically with making sure that we've got capital projects ordinance in the future that's been funded with enough money that will basically be able to keep the project rolling in the future, and then all money spent will then be applied for reimbursement from the state.
So a couple questions, Mr. Town Manager. So there's multiple tasks that the 800 will go to. It's not a single task. It's just a general reallocation of the money to support all of Labella tasks that we have
Right, and
ongoing?
this one too, the purpose in this is written out for Labella, but it is also to take care of an existing outstanding Ruby Collins bill
Okay,
for it.
all right, so it's multiple,
Right, and when we get finished, we'll be discussing we had created, when Mr. Carr was here, a project ordinance. We hadn't set it up officially
Yeah.
through the accounting system.
yeah,
Finance Officer, Mr. Ford, is going to be working on setting up the structure of the capital projects ordinance. Once we have that put up, that will have detailed line items within the capital projects ordinance for different line items for expenditures. So I expect that you will see, and step in, Steve, if I misstep on this one, you'll see a spot in the capital projects ordinance where you will have engineering services and
Yeah.
construction services and things that are laid out. It is basically to create a forensic trail for everything that we consider in the capital projects ordinance, so that the council, as well as the community, after the fact, when all this dust is settled, will be able to have a clear picture about what money was spent on all of these projects involving ARPA and where it went,
okay.
okay?
The other thing that caught my attention, you said you're taking the 800 from the water and sewer fund? And then, but the money reimbursement goes back to the general fund?
No, it goes back to the water and sewer fund.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what he said.
Wow, do we have enough in the water and sewer fund is pretty scarce.
We've got enough for the 800,000, and then we're expecting, I believe, Steve, you wanna talk about what we're expecting on immediate?
Yeah, we'll
Yeah.
they'll come back with a reimbursement from the ARPA funds.
Yeah.
From the loan.
Yeah.
So that will take care of any spending that we have out of the general fund, out of the fund so far.
Okay, so I'm just, yeah, this actually is kind of interesting. So we're using the water and sewer fund as kind of the depository for the in and out for the day-to-day expenditures?
Yes, because that's where the capital fund that we
Goes
create,
back-
right.
Goes
mhm,
back into.
Right.
Can we set up another mechanism to separate that out? Because the water and sewer fund is, it's very
Yes.
limited.
Yeah, I agree. If we can do that with that project.
With the
Right.
project fund,
Right,
okay.
right.
All right, but right now, we're kind of stuck and working
Right,
with the water.
well,
and
this
sewer
is just a mechanism to pay the bills.
Yeah, yeah,
that
yeah,
have-
yeah, yeah.
That has come to us so far,
Okay,
and that we need to go ahead and pay these vendors, so,
okay,
all right.
okay.
Yeah, and then it'll come right back
We're
with
taking from the
reimbursement.
water and sewers, general fund to pay the bills, applying for getting the reimbursement, they'll come right back to the same general
To the
fund.
water and sewer fund, okay.
That's right.
Okay, got it.
Anything else? Any other questions?
Yeah, I'm good.
You good?
Yeah, that's good.
So we need to approve it.
We do need to approve it.
Let's see.
Is there
Didn't want to say what you
Madam Mayor, I move that we approve budget amendment number 345.
There you go. I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
That budget amendment is approved. And that brings us to, we will now go into closed session, and so we thank you all so much for coming. There isn't anything else on the agenda after that, so I don't want you waiting with bated breath for us to come back. So we appreciate, as always, your being here, and drive home safely. Do you hear a motion that we go into closed session?
Madam Mayor, closed session motion in accordance with GS 143-318, 11, Alpha 6 for the purpose of discussing personnel matters.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And we will retire in closed session into the conference room. Should we
Thank
take
you
a
all very much for
5-minute
being
break?
here.
We'll take a 5-minute break. Okay.
Got it, okay, understood.
It just makes it easier to see what meetings.
Yeah, got it, understood, yeah. I don't know if anybody has made it, we started putting change numbers by the agenda items in.
She wants to be a destroyer, huh?
So you can flip through it and made it easier to find the.
Did you explain to her everything it takes to be a target?
Okay, I know what you're talking about.
My dad was a target. Good for her. Yeah, good for her.
Next week,
So
I'll
she, I mean, she's in the 1-year window where she's gonna choose. I think they even do it earlier now. I think they do it like September next year.